Attention, the following video is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are those of the creator. Viewer discretion is advised, just in case you take everything personally. Hi, my name is Rakia Michelle and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. If you're new here, this channel we talk about all things pop psychology, beauty, balance. We talk about all the things. We're elevating the conversation while keeping it real. So if that sounds like something you'd like, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and join the family. So today we're going to be discussing the psychology of the video vixen, okay? There was a time when being a video vixen meant you had arrived. You were the visual fantasy, the girl in the cut who didn't need a mic or a verse, just a look, a strut, and a body that told a story all on its own. But behind the gloss and the glamour was something deeper. These women didn't just appear in music videos, okay? They became cultural blueprints, living, moving, breathing symbols of what it meant to be desired, powerful, and feminine. And while some were idealized, others were discarded just as quickly. Their value was rarely about who they were, only how well they performed the fantasy. This is the psychology of the video vixen, how desire shaped an era. Now, the video vixen didn't just walk into pop culture. She didn't just arrive from thin air. She strutted in right as hip-hop cemented itself into mainstream. So, with hip-hop's rise came bigger budgets, flashier videos, and a desire to match their lyrical bravado with, hypersexual, hyper-luxurious imagery. And the video vixen, she was the visual confirmation of a rapper's success. But let's be real. Only a specific type of woman got to be the face of that fantasy. There was a formula. There's always a formula. She had to be curvy, but with a waist that snapped back. Sexy, but not too overtly sexual outside the artist's control. And ethnically ambiguous, or racially palatable, as some would like to say. This wasn't just about inclusion, it was about exclusion. Dark-skinned women were sidelined, as always. Natural hair, rarely seen. A fuller body without the right proportions, quote unquote, forget about it, right? So yes, these women were seen, but they were also shaped, molded to fit a very narrow idea of what worthy or desirability was. Now, when we talk about the male gaze, we're not just talking about it, from a film theory. It's a psychological lens that defines how women are positioned in media as objects, not subjects. And the video vixen, she became the canvas for that gaze. Her story didn't matter, her dreams didn't matter, her voice didn't matter, her opinions didn't matter. None of those things matter. Those are non-essential things. What mattered was how she moved, how she looked, and how well she could sell the fantasy. We internalize this. As viewers, we internalize this, especially as young girls watching from the sidelines. Desire wasn't just something to experience. It was something to earn. You had to look a certain way. You had to act a certain way. To be chosen, to feel validated. And if you didn't fit that mold, you either disappeared in the background or were cast as a hypersexualized punchline. Think, quote unquote, big girl in the video, jokes or overt tokenism, that type of thing. The emotional toll of that, immeasurable. And it didn't just impact vixens, it filtered down to everyday women who, navigated spaces of beauty, navigated race, and desirability politics in real life. Now, here's the twist. Many of these women did hold cultural power. Some people might even say that they arguably paved the way for a lot of influencers or IG models today. Their images sold records, their aesthetics built trends, their walk, their presence, their entire vibe influenced fashion, music, makeup, even body surgery trends. I'm telling y'all. And yet, they were rarely respected as creatives or professionals. Most video vixens, I feel like they get a bad rep. First of all, they're paid peanuts, okay? Imagine being in a video that racks up 20 million views or goes #1 and walking away with $500 and no credit. Excuse me? They weren't given royalties, their likeness was often used without permission, and many were harassed on the set, pressured into doing more than what they signed up for, or ghosted entirely after the shoot wrapped up. Let's take Karrine Steffans, Her memoir wasn't a tell-all for attention. It was a survival story. Comment down below if you've read her book. I need to read it. But instead of concern, she got headlines calling her damaged or bitter. How? That's how society treats women who dare to speak up about how they've been used, how they've been abused, how they've been mistreated, especially by an entity at large. It's easier to call her degrading names than to admit she was a mirror to the industry's manipulation. And she's one of many. Melyssa Ford has spoken up openly about how, she was mistreated and treated like disposable parts, used until they aged her out of the fantasy or dared to ask for more. Even now, years later, when these women go public about their experiences, the responses are often dismissive. Well, you chose that life. They knew what they were signing up for. But ask yourself, would we say the same thing if it were men coming forward about exploitation in their industry? Would we be acting the same? Comment down below. This is a pattern. When women in entertainment, especially Black women, speak out, they're silenced not just by gatekeepers, but by the culture that refuses to see them as victims, especially when their pain threatens the fantasy people already believed in. The message was clear. You can be seen, you can be desired, but you cannot disrupt the narrative. Stay in line. You could be the image, but don't try to control it. Now, even though the video vixen era, it's faded from music videos quite significantly, her influence didn't disappear. It just evolved. Today's influencer culture, especially among Black and brown women, is built on the bones and the backs of the vixen archetype, okay? You see her in the perfectly beat face, the lace front wigs, the laid edges, the curated body, the BBL curves, cinched waist, plump lips, the sultry stare framed in, soft lighting. Yeah, that's video vixen. It's not just an aesthetic, it's a strategy, a visual currency. And it stems directly from the blueprint that vixens created, whether they meant to or not. But here's the twist now. Women are both the product and the platform. Social media allows them to monetize their looks, set their rates, control their image, in theory at least, right? Because while there's more agency today, the pressure to conform is just as intense, if not more. Now it's not a casting director deciding your worth. It's likes, it's views, it's algorithms, and the unwritten rules of what's considered quote unquote desirable in the explore page economy. And this new era comes with its own psychological weight. A lot of women today are still performing a version of the vixen dressed through the lens of confidence or self-love. But the core question remains, who's really benefiting from this aesthetic? Is this self-expression or is it self-commodification? Because when your looks are your brand, rest becomes a risk. Aging becomes an anxiety, and desirability becomes a full-time job that you cannot clock out of. Even the language has shifted. Back then, you were a video girl, you know what I'm talking about? But now you're a baddie, or an IG model, or an influencer, or content creator. But the underlying message, it's the same. Be beautiful, be desirable, be visible, or be forgotten. And for many women, that visibility still comes with a cost. Hypersexualization, dehumanization, and constant surveillance by the same gaze that once controlled the camera. So, while we've come a long way from the Hype Williams era, we're still living inside the beauty blueprint they built. We just carry it, in a front-facing camera now. So in totality, the psychology of the video vixen is layered. She was more than just a beautiful face in a flashy video. She was the fantasy, but she was also the fallout. She was both praised and punished for being desired. In many ways, she represented what society both craves and fears in women: sexual agency, physical dominance, and visual power. But that power was conditional. It lasted only as long as she played the part, stayed silent, and stayed beautiful. The truth is, desire is a double-edged sword. It can elevate you and erase you at the same time. The same gaze that put the vixen on a pedestal was the one that discarded her the moment she spoke out, aged out, or demanded more. And for those of us who grew up watching these women, modeling ourselves after them, envying them, even judging them, we had to ask, what did we learn about ourselves in this process? We learned that beauty could open doors, but not necessarily keep them open. That being seen isn't the same as being respected. That visibility without protection is not empowerment, it's exposure. So when we talk about the legacy of the video vixen, we're not just talking about aesthetics. We're talking about survival, about the cost of being everything the world tells you to be, only to realize it was never built to love you back. The question isn't, were video vixens powerful? That's not the question. It's, can you be powerful in a world that only values you when you're pleasing to the eye and silent? And more importantly, what does it say about us that so many women had to turn themselves into fantasies just to be seen? Let that sit with you. If you like this video, drop a comment down below. Who do you think were the most iconic vixens of the 2000s? And what do you think their stories say about us? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more psychology-driven deep dives like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Mwah.